recording and I'll kick us off. What's
Cool.
up, guys? Hopefully you know who I am. Zap, your Renew Nashville and membership program manager here at the EC. Just as a little update, hopefully people got an email sometime today, and I just posted on LinkedIn. We have some slots open to record a free professional video with Studio Now in our brand new video studio. This is a $500 value. And I can send you an example of a video that we already made for an entrepreneur where it was really for him to like put, it was almost like a little ad he made and put on like his about me page and social media, just sharing like what the company is, because we need to reach clients and customers in new ways during this time. So just keep that on your radar. In the meantime, though, getting started, I'm so stoked to have Falon Scott here to talk about her business, Evolution Event Solutions. She is a hustler. I've already heard kind of the brief bit of the beginning of her story and just how they've pivoted, and how I'm really excited to kind of dive into like what you had your events team doing when there weren't events, but you needed them to keep busy. But let's start at the very beginning. And maybe tell me about, Fallon, how you started your business and kind of give us like an introduction of how you got into the world of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, I can totally do that. Hi everyone. And Haley, thank you so much for this, and us getting together and me being able to talk about EES and what we do now and what we've done in the past. So it's always great to tell a story. I've been in events for 21 years. I actually started in college, and so it's kind of all I've ever known. When I moved to Nashville, I actually came here for the music industry. I wanted to be a publicist, and I was at Belmont. And so once I got out of there, I started volunteering for events within like CMA and different record labels and things like that. And I fell in love with the event side of the industry. So fast forward, I worked for another meeting and event planning company in Nashville for about 7 years, and resigned from there in 2012. And to be honest with you, the main reason I started EES is because I wanted to work with nonprofits. And I was not able to work with nonprofits at my previous job. It just wasn't part of their business model in terms of their structure. And so I was doing a lot of like on the side, moonlighting, if you will, nonprofit work just to help the community in Nashville. And so that was literally the premise in which EES was founded on. Today, we have about 20 to 25% of our business is still within the nonprofit sector, which is great. And we are able to do that and help nonprofits in the same way that we help our corporate companies, because our corporate companies pay the bills. And so we're able to give discounted rates and services to the nonprofits that we work with, and we can still turn the same product for them. So it's pretty cool. So yeah, we've been around for 8 years. We just turned 8 on August 1st this year. I was planning a huge celebration. Because once you make it past year 7, they say your 7th year is your hardest, and I'll tell you what, it was the hardest. The 7th year was the hardest. You feel like
Why do they say the 7th is the hardest? I
don't
haven't heard
know.
that.
Okay, so I've heard it from a bunch of entrepreneurs, and they're like, because I think it's because like everybody can make it to like year 5-ish, 6, or that's kind of what I've been told. But they were like year 7, it's like your hardest year. It's kind of like year 7 in a marriage is like supposed to be the hardest year. Year 7 in a business would be the hardest year. So, and it felt that way for me. Like I felt like everybody was just coming after us. Like everybody was trying to take the little magical thing that we had created, and we fought hard and we survived and we turned 8. so we're good. But yeah, my party was obviously thwarted with COVID. And then here we are today. So moving forward from that.
Yeah, can you talk to me how you got started as like, were you a team of one working with nonprofits, or how did you get those first clients, and then how did you scale up?
Yeah, because I've been in Nashville for so long. I've been here since 2003, and I had a lot of connections. And I was with a competing event company. I just had a bunch of connections already. And so a lot of the companies that I would volunteer for or sit on a board for that I couldn't work with at my previous job, I was able to start working with them. I was a team of 1.5, I would say, from the beginning. So I had like a part-time person helping me. I literally was just working out of a bedroom in my house. I'm in my home office today since I'm not at the office. But yeah, just by myself, basically just kind of restarting everything from scratch, deciding, everything from the branding and graphics, of course, and website stuff, but like how I really wanted to run the business and what processes I liked that I had created at my old job, because I was vice president of that company and ran the operations, versus things I wanted to change on my side. So it was just so much fun, like being able to have full control over what I was doing, and knowing that I was doing good work, and knowing that the things that we were putting out there were actually making a difference for the companies and the organizations that we were working with. So yeah, it was me and a half a person, literally a part-time person, but we grew really fast. So we started in 2014, we really started to pick up, like kind of just like the most beautiful weed ever is what I tell people. Like we just grew and grew and grew and grew, and we doubled or tripled our revenues year over year until 2020. I mean, we would just, what I did in terms of growth is I didn't, most event companies will just keep adding staff and hiring people. I think it's more important to make sure first that your processes are perfected and in place in the right way, so your efficiencies can multiply out. A lot of other companies have 2 and 3 times the number of people we do, but they do the exact same amount of revenue as we do, which is interesting. So we built out processes, we built out a lot of custom technology and things that we did on our end, and then we just started adding people as that happened, and we got to where we were about a year ago now. We've lost a couple through COVID, but we're still there.
I'd love to know more, going from being VP of an events company to starting your own, what were the big things that you were like, this is what I've learned that we need to keep? And what are the things that you're like, oh yeah, I'm the boss now, I'm changing this is what we're going to do better?
Yeah, it's interesting. I grew up in an entrepreneurial family. So my father owned 3 or 4 different companies when I was young, and both of my brothers have their own businesses today. So it's kind of just how my mind works. And I always knew I would run my own business. And so when I started EES, I kind of already knew that I was going to focus first and most importantly on my people. And not just because we were a service-based business, but because I truly believe that your company culture will make or break you as a successful company. And people say that they do, but I don't know a lot of other businesses that actually walk and live and breathe and eat and sleep that. And we do. Where I used to work, it was a little bit different. Company culture was not that great, and turnover was extremely high. And so I learned a lot of how not to run a team. So that was probably my biggest takeaway from running another business operationally and leaving and starting my own, was like, okay, if I'm going to find the group of people that are going to work with me, they're going to stand beside me, and we're going to walk through fire together, and they need to know that I have their back in every single way, shape, or form. And so I've handpicked my whole team one by one, and grew them to where they are. And that's who we have now. I think people are the most important part of any organization, regardless whether you're in service or not, because, if I can keep my team happy, and, they're happy to be with us, and they're happy to be a part of the team, and they're going to work harder, and they're going to, like you said, they're going to hustle with me. Like, when we went through COVID and I had to tell them what they're about to go through, they were like, we got you. We're going to do this. I mean, we were all crying, but we still have each other's back, so I would say that's probably the thing that I changed the most from leaving from where I was previously to starting my own. And then there were a lot of positives that came out. Being in the event industry in Nashville as it was coming its own was really cool. Moving here in 2003 and seeing, the way that the city was growing was really neat. I actually helped develop a lot of processes at my previous job that I was able to take over. And that was probably the most positive thing, was like understanding the way that business works. I mean, at a very young age of like 22 years old, I was thrown into boardrooms with Fortune 500 company CEOs that were 3 times my age. And here's just little Falon, in her pencil skirt and her stiletto heels, trying to, say some big words and make them think I know what I'm talking about. But it was good. I got through in the fire really young and was able to take that. And then I do that same thing to my team now too. I throw them in the deep end all the time, and they'll hit me for a minute, but they grow from it every single time.
That's awesome. Yeah, you can do anything in a pencil skirt and a pair of stilettos. I'm a
You
big
can,
believer in
you can.
that. How do you know when someone's like the right fit for the team? If you're really focused on people and getting
Mhm.
people who are gonna stick with you through the hard times of COVID and the good times with you, what's kind of your big differentiator when hiring? What are things that you think about?
Yeah, and this kind of goes into Harrison. You typed a note in the chat too, and this answer kind of answers both of that. So for me, from how I was raised, and then for the way that I view people that I want on my team, it all comes down to work ethic. Um, in the past year, we had to hire quicker than I've ever had to hire before, in the past 2 years, actually. And so I wasn't able to run through the full process I normally would. But up until then, I would literally do a training period of time. So you would, and again, this isn't for everybody, but if it is, it is. So I would say, all right, you've got 90 days. You will get paid like your salary, whatever that is. But you're still not, a full-time official EES employee. You're going to go on the road. You're going to go to Vegas. You're going to go to Spain. You're going to travel. You're going to have 2 a.m. call times. You're going to be up till midnight. You're going to run the spreadsheets. You're going to put your headset on. You're going to get behind the scenes. Like you're going to be dirty. You're going to be muddy, like depending on what kind of event we're running. And if they can make it through that, they get a place on the team, because that's the hardest part, right? Like what I've learned is, pretty much all of us today, we're all on like Zoom. Technology is easier for most of us today, especially, people that are younger than me, even more so. My team has to help me with Instagram. I'm not great at it, but like Excel and Google Drive and Google Sheets and emails and, the different applications and Slack and all that, like everybody's pretty much got that down to a science. So at the end of the day, from what I've learned from my parents and what I try to instill within the team and make sure I'm only hiring people if they've got that work ethic. And you've just got to be like, some days you may not be able to wash your clothes for a month because you're on the road. There used to be a part of the year where we would tell the team, I'd be like, get your hair done now because you're not going to be home for 3 months. Like if you have to get your hair colored, you better do it in January because you're not going to see your house until April, And so it's like, if you can sacrifice just a little bit of yourself for the greater good of the business is really what it comes down to in that work ethic, and knowing like I'm a mother, married mother, and I've had to leave my son for hundreds of days before in the total of a year. In 2018 and 19, it was 200 to 300 days out of the year. And it was a lot, but I knew that it would get to the point where I'm going to be able to grow this company. I'm going to get the team, we're going to grow the business. And then, even without COVID, I was only going to travel 150 days this year. I think I traveled 2 weeks. But so it comes down to work ethic, being able to sacrifice a little bit of who you are to help us all move forward are very important things to us.
Has anyone not made that 90-day mark? Have you had to pull the plug a few times?
Not as many as you would think. We have a very low turnover at ES, twice in 8 years.
Wow, that'd be tough, but you're probably grateful every time it happens.
Oh yeah, because I'm a salesperson, right? I sell. That's what I do. Like I grow my business and I talk to people about what we do. And there's a lot of people that interview really well, and then you're going to throw them to the wolves, and it doesn't work. So yeah, I'm really happy that we're able to hire that way, and that in our industry it's more accepted. There's other industries you can't do that, and I understand, but it works for us. But yeah, those two are happier where they are now. Well, you can say that for sure. They totally are. Yeah.
Emily chatted in a question asking, what are the most important processes you put in place so that every time isn't the first time? And I know you're like a very process-oriented gal. So, what tips and tricks do you have around building processes?
Yeah, girl, we need to talk for a couple hours. It takes time, I'll tell you. So I'm trying to think how I can kind of condense this down. I would say the most of, like, for example, like when we get a new client that we haven't worked with before, no clients ever come to us shiny and clean. They just don't. Nobody's organized. Nobody has everything together. They're missing 90% of the information that we need. Is, I don't know what all industries you all work in, but I'm sure it's the same for you. Like there's a reason they're coming to you for business, right? So when we get those clients, I usually sit down, depending on the level of the business, and sit down with their executive team if they're a part of the initial launch team, and we go over where they want to go. What is their end game? Where do they want to end up? It could be for some it's monetary based and budget based. For some it's exposure based from events. For some it's just internal education. Some it's training. Like it's all completely different. But what I have found, in order for me to create a process for an individual company, which, disclaimer, we have our set processes, we have to tweak them almost every time we bring on a new company. So just know that. Just to fit their mold, is I first start with where they want to end up. And so if you have your end game in mind, that's usually a pretty good place to begin. And then we'll basically work backwards from there in terms of putting together a few key documents. So we have some nomenclature terminology in our org, and it's like, our production calendar, which is basically a deadline calendar that we share out with clients. And so they see, from day one to after the event is closed out, after we do the debrief, after we actionize all of our to-dos and plan for the next one, like that calendar, we've got master docs, which is anywhere from 2 to 200 tabs in a G Sheet that is now living in our CRM. We just built out ourselves as a plugin into Salesforce. But that's basically every order for every vendor, every timeline, everything that you could ever imagine. So this year during COVID, we were able to finish our software platform that we started building out. We took my brain, went to a software developer. We said we want to plug something to plug into our CRM, Salesforce, and we build it out. So now our master docs are living inside of Salesforce. And then there's a bunch of other like reporting mechanisms and things that we put in place, but all of it comes from, the know-how of getting them to where they need to be, because where they want to go. And a lot of people don't want to start that way. And, sometimes you'll talk to people and they don't know where they want to go. And sometimes you have to help them get there. But if you know that, then you're going to exceed their expectations. You're going to have your timeline in place to get there. And then you'll have less things pop up as you kind of go along, which is good. Emily, we can talk more though too, because you might be wanting something specific too, and happy to have a sidebar conversation with you too.
Yeah. Let's shift to kind of like the meat of things, which folks want to hear about COVID. Why don't we just start at the beginning? Because I think you had mentioned to me that you kind of had heard of things going on a bit early and shut things down early. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so we we were all in Las Vegas in January at CES, Consumer Electronics Showcase. And for those of you that don't know what that is, there's about 175,000 people that go to Vegas the first or second week of January. And the majority of them are from Greater Asia, in Europe. And so those of us that came home were sick for 2 weeks. So I'm pretty sure that we all had it because we didn't test positive for flu. But anyway, so that was in January. The rest of my team got sick in February at a 45,000 person event here in Nashville that we put on. And then when the first case hit Williamson County, it was March 5th. We were at an awards luncheon for the team. And someone texted me on our way there and they said, the first COVID case just hit Williamson County. And I was sitting at the table with the girls. We were about to get an award. It was great, but terrible at the same time. And I was like, when we get out of here, we can have our champagne, pack up your stuff. Y'all go work from home. Cause I didn't know, like all of us had already been sick from our travels because we traveled so much. Of course, we weren't being told that it was COVID back then because who knew? In January and March, and that really wasn't coming out. But so I sent everybody home on March 5th. And that's just what it was. I mean, we packed up, we all have monitors and our own printers and everything. Everybody just went to the office, packed up their stuff and went home. So it hit us immediately. So within 2 weeks of March 5th, we had postponed hundreds. I don't even know the number. I tried to come up with a number for you guys, but we have it tracked in a different way in our CAM. Millions and millions of dollars of business and hundreds of events we moved within 2 weeks. And we moved them some to the summer, which we then moved again, some to the fall, which we then moved again, and some to next year, which we're now talking about moving again. So it wasn't easy. And every single person on my team had to do it regardless of their role, from the director of sales to the admin, like everybody. Like I was on the phone for 18 hours a day. Zooms with the leadership of all of our clients, just helping them navigate. We had a huge client that was doing this amazingly large event at a hotel in downtown, and what was it, April, and this was in March, and that was before force majeure was coming into play and before the government was shutting us down, and they were about to have to pay over $1 million in a fee, and we were able to get them out of it, which was great. So it saved our relationship with the client. The hotel was 100% okay. So there was a lot of that going on. There was a lot of me realizing how different we were. I always knew that we had a different company and we do things the right way and we're all good people. But I really learned it through those first few weeks of COVID when, some hotels were not doing things the right way. They were not treating us and some of their customers with just the friendship and respect that they should. There were other event companies that were kind of doing the same thing. And so, we lost a lot of money and we could have fudged it. We could have lied to our clients. We could have done some very not positive, non-ethical things that some other people have done. And we didn't. And I just said, you know what, we're going to do this the right way. Our main goal, as it has always been, after taking care of the team and us, is we take care of our clients. And so that's what we did. And 2 weeks of whirlwind, we moved all of it. And then we just kept in communication with everybody. So, Haley, what you and I were talking about was, end of March, we were kind of like, well, shit, what do we do? There's nothing. We don't have an event. We don't have anything lined up. We moved some stuff to the summer, but nobody really wanted to talk about diving into it. So I still had my full team. So I went to them and I said, okay, we're pretty good at what we do. We're the experts in town. I was like, but what in the event world do you guys not know about that you're interested? And I had, one girl on my team was like, I really want to learn about food and wine pairings. I was like, go take a class. Somebody else was like, I really want to do this. I really want to do that. I had a couple run through the Belmont program. I had a couple do the Florida Atlantic event management certification, but we had over 20, I think, so certifications that we've all gained in those months, because I was like, okay, I'm going to keep you guys on salary. We're going to keep the benefits, but we have to be doing something to make ourselves better. So that's what we did. I mean, I took, I'm in grad school right now, so I didn't add anything else to my plate, but I also was able to use the stuff I was learning at Owen and literally take it to my team, which you could ask them, they might hate me for this, but I would have EES and EMBA days. So I would learn something in like business strategy and I'd bring it to the girls and I'd be like, okay, so I learned this from my professor and I think this is really cool if we do blah, 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 blah. And they would all get like their little assignments and then they'd go do them and come back. And it was just really cool. So for like 3 or 4 months, that's all we did. I mean, we were on seminars, I was on a global call every hour, it seemed like what's going on in Australia, what's going on in Europe. And I would report back to the team or somebody would take a MPI lesson on, how to run virtual or something, because only half of my team was geared up for virtual at that point. So we were also training on that at the same time. So it was just, a whole education quarter, if you will. And that's just all that we focused on. We made sure that we were talking to our clients and making sure that we were all okay. We would have check-ins every other day. If we weren't talking every day with the team, to be like, how are you? Are y'all okay? Do you have family members that are sick? How are your kids? Does anybody need anything? And we did the same thing for our clients. And then we just learned a lot over that period of time. So that probably got us through the summer or so. And as we were doing that, we were learning the virtual. At EES, we've always done virtual meetings. We've done them for years, just only did like three or four a year. Now there's like 3 or 4 a day, it seems like. So it's a little bit different. And as you guys probably have been able to see, the technology that's out there now, I mean, it's insane. It's way different from when it was a few years ago. And so a lot of our time, probably in August and July, we finally decided that it was time for us to narrow down the virtual platform search, because we work with people and companies all across the spectrum and they all have different needs and different budgets. And so we vetted about 35 different platforms, and I had put 2 of the team members on it and they went through those with a fine-tooth comb. And so we actually now use about 5. So we still have our vetted 35 list, but we now use about 5 to where we know what to put out there when clients come to us, because it gets the turnaround quicker. Because that's the biggest problem that people have in virtual is, hey, what platform do I use? I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, here's where we start. So that was part of our learning process too, was going through the virtual, the training, and then understanding all the platforms and how to put all them together. I basically had to take a group of women, we're all women, and take a group of women who are used to, running around on site at an event with a clipboard or a computer or an iPad, or sitting at a reg desk, or having a headset on behind, a screen calling the show, to being able to do all of that from their computer screen. So, but we did it, and now we're that's all we do. Unfortunately, I guess, but but that's some of it. Yeah.
That's so hard. Yeah. I was kind of that way in my job, is I'm like, I'm used to moving and the people being here. Can you share which kind of are the 5 platforms you recommend the most?
Oh my gosh. Let me think. So we trying to think, because we just added 2 more. VFairs is an inexpensive one that covers, we're doing a virtual trade show for 57,000 people. I'll let you know how that goes. So that we're working on it right now. That's what we're using for that one. And I like it enough to recommend it, I will say. It does take a little finesse, like every platform does. But it's cost effective for what it is. I mean, some of these platforms out there that we have vetted and gone through, I mean, they range from $10,000. I'm not talking about Zoom, like $10,000 to the most expensive one I looked at was almost $300,000.
They're
So, I
so
mean,
expensive. It's crazy prices out there.
it's nuts. And so I'm just like, it's nuts. So VFairs is a good one. Remo is a good one. Visibo is a good one. Um, Huvo is a really good one for nonprofit, because it's inexpensive, and it basically is an upgrade of Zoom. We actually we're using it right now today. Actually, I think the girls are at the office doing one on it right now. But it really comes down to just what your needs are, right? Like, so we had a high profile award show that was supposed to be at LinkedIn's office out in Silicon Valley. And so that obviously didn't happen. And so we turned it virtual, and we just basically built out like a 3D modeling XR program. I have people that do that. I am not the tech person, but basically it's virtual reality without wearing a headset. And it was really, really cool. And so we're probably going to do that again too. And some of the things that we do are custom as well. Like we've done custom platform build outs and custom website build outs that tie into it for registration. And sometimes it's a little bit more expensive to do that. But honestly, if you have these events, like some of our events are trade shows, general sessions, networking, awards, whatever. There's like 10 different things piled into it like you would normally have. And sometimes you just have to do something custom for those. So there's not going to be like a one-stop shop for them unless you just truly have a platform that you plug things into, right? Versus an application that like Zoom is an app, right? Technically. And the platform is like where the things live. So terminology is a whole other thing we get into with this. So.
Yeah, totally. How have you seen, like, how many events pivoted into virtual versus might have just canceled versus are still postponing? Like, what does that kind of look like? I know you might not have,
Yeah.
The uh, most accurate numbers, but just understanding kind of what people are deciding upon would be interesting to know, and also maybe how that's shifted to where we are now.
Yeah. So we work across a lot of different industries, which is good, I guess, to answer this question. So it's been about half and half, to be honest. There, some of our clients and their clients that come to these events, like it would never work virtually, never. And then we have some clients who are thinking, hey, this normally wouldn't work virtually, but because we only meet once a year, we have to do something. So people, the way that we're finding clients and just people in general looking at virtual events up until probably the past few weeks has been, it's just a means to an end, and they just are doing it because they feel like they have to. I'm of the opinion that this is here to stay for years, for probably at least 3 to 5. But but not just virtual, more of a hybrid setup of an event. So, and we've been talking about that for a while. I think I started talking about that actually back in April, because I was like, we could just run this how we've always done our virtual events, which is not completely virtual, but it's always hybrid. So there's a lot of companies that are just doing virtual because they feel like they have to. Because I mean, think about it. If you're company X and you have one training meeting where you train your salespeople and your people come in, to Nashville or whatever, and then you have 3 trade shows where you exhibit out to get business leads, and you don't do any of that, what happens to your company? Right? Like, where's the client? Where's the B2C connection? Where's the internal connection? What happens to the way your teams develop and how they talk and network around, especially if they're remote? Let's say they even don't all live in Nashville. So people in the beginning, like we had a few clients that were just like, we're not doing any of it. We're done. We're just going to wait. We're going to ride this out. Then August hit and they were like, okay, yeah, we need to do something. I'm like, yeah, like COVID isn't going away. So you're going to have to do something. So I would say it's half and half, half are like immediately jumped on it and we're like, yeah, let's do this. Like they weren't overly excited about it, but they knew that there had to be something that they put out there. And then you had half that still, I mean, we still have some clients today that we have pushed things for a year, of like about almost 2 years, if you add it all up. And so like some of our events that were going to be in the beginning of this year are going to be at the end of next year. And now we're actually talking about 2022, which is crazy to me to push things a full 2 years. And the fact that we're actually able to do that for them with our vendor partners just blows my mind. But yeah, it's nuts.
That is really crazy. How has that kind of affected your revenue essentially? Like, have you been able, like, what percent are you able to make within the virtual world? And what opportunities have you seen come out of this virtual world versus like the negative hits? Because there's been good and bad, obviously, but you've made some good out of it. And like, how does that weigh out?
Yeah, totally. We have lost a lot. We have lost about 70% of our revenues for 2020, which is a ton. It is a lot. The beautiful thing about it is that we have an amazing team and we operate lean, and we always have. And we were easily and quick on finding like cost saving mechanisms like that. Like my CFO's a rock star. She was like, let's do this, this, and this, and this, and this. It'll save us a bunch of money like tomorrow. We're like, okay, good. So like we all like kind of jumped in. Everybody on the team like helped figure that out. So while it's a lot, it's fine. There is a lot of positive that's coming out of this. I will say from like a culture / our industry standpoint. I don't know if any of you are in events specifically. Helena, you are mostly, but the event industry is hard. Some people never end up getting married and having families when they're in the event industry, because you kill yourself. Like, and I've been there as I was married and having my kid. I mean, I was 8.5 months pregnant, moving tables around Marathon Music Works. And people were like, what are you doing? Like, I get it. Like, I understand it, but like, it's a really hard industry. And because we all love what we do so much, we sacrifice our health, we sacrifice our relationships, we sacrifice our personal time. And the one thing COVID has taught all of us, I think, is that it's not worth it. You can still love your job and not have to kill yourself. So like what we did at ES is I told the team, we were all working from home. We were talking all the time. We were on Zoom, 10, 12 hours a day. But I told them, I said, if and when we go back, which we're back now, technically, some of us in the office, but said, if and when we go back, instead of just working home one day a week, why don't you guys work from home every Monday and Friday? And why don't we start our workday at 10 instead of 9? Like, the world isn't going to end if you're not responding to an email at 9:05 in the morning. I was like, because what we all learned is, as parents and sisters and daughters and mothers, this is like, having time with our family in the morning was really important. And so that's what we did. So we made it work for us, and everybody still gets their stuff done. We're just as productive. But without COVID, that wouldn't have happened. we would have kept going at the breakneck speed that we've been going. And while none of us are burnt out and all of us were happy to do it, and we love what we do, and we'll hop on a plane and go to Dubai tomorrow if we have to, it's fine. But it was just really nice that we were able to kind of like slow down for a second, and realize that about all of us and some needs that we had that weren't being met. And so that was really good. I think from like the event standpoint, business kind of like production standpoint is, I'm a little production junkie. So my like little personal passion in the events industry is being a producer. I love producing shows. And so I'll put on my headset, dress me in black, put me a headset on and put me behind a screen, and I will stay there all day. Like I don't have to talk to anybody. Like I want to call the cues and work on lighting and all, like I love it. And so I've been able to share that more with the full team now, and now we all do it. And so it's a lot of fun. Like it's a lot of fun to be able to help clients build their content in a way so that it's dynamic enough that it matters. And I think, a positive side for the clients is that they're now realizing how important what they put out there in terms of their messaging, whether it's a speech, PowerPoint, video, whatever, is more critical to their success than what they realized before. And so it actually helps us in the event world because we hold the vehicles for them to do that, right? Like we help them put those events on. So people are realizing just how important that content is, and that, it looks better on a bigger screen with lighting. It looks better if you have somebody, dressed, have a, nice button down shirt on standing on a stage rather than somebody like me right now sitting at home in my office / workout room, so it was really eye-opening, I think, for a lot of our clients, for them to understand just what that content is from a virtual standpoint, and then understanding that we can actually help them get there in a bigger way. And even through virtuality is, man, like you can meet so many more people than what you can in person. I mean, I'm on the tedx Nashville board, and we streamed out last night. We had 800 people sign up for our virtual event. For our events normally that size in person, it's less than 200. So like, wow, right? And so I think a lot of our clients are realizing that too, from an attendee standpoint. If it's free, of course, sometimes paid is a little bit different, but they're getting like 3 to 10 times the attendance as they would have if they were live and in person. So that's good too.
Wow, that's a huge difference in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. Is TEDx still happening? Is this something we need to tune into if it's free?
Yeah, it's free. So it's go to tedx Nashville, the website.com. It's called Perception. There's 5 of them. So we did the first one last night. We've got one on the 8th, one on the 9th, one on the 15th, and one on the 16th. Yeah. They're cool. They're really cool. Yeah. It was a lot of fun to do.
And I know you've kind of already covered this in like snippets, but just concretely, like, what do you see as the future of the events industry right now? And I know you're in this unknown space, but like, what are you planning for? What do you think things are going to look like?
Yeah. Not great. So I'm not planning on anything to shift from where we are currently today until the fall of next year. And that shift is going to be gradual. So when I say that, I mean, like, we do 300 live events a year. We've done 2 this year. We actually just did one 2 weeks ago, and it was great. All outside in South Carolina. But, everything's virtual now. Everything's going to stay virtual probably through June, I would say, at a minimum. I think after that, which we're starting to talk about this now. So I do know there are people talking about the hybrid portion, the hybrid concept, in doing that starting in August or so of next year in our client base, at least. And then live and in person Q1-ish of 2022. But I still think that even those will be hybrid. There's a saying that we say a lot on NEO and a couple other groups I'm with, and it's just like, you have to meet people where they are. That doesn't mean like I'm going to come to your house and hang out. It means like, if you don't feel good about being in public around 2 people, much less 2,000 people, or like you're immunocompromised. Like I have a heart condition, so I'm not really hanging out with a bunch of people. I'm trying to stay home and not get this thing. So it's kind of just like we have to meet that person. Like we can't discriminate against them and hold an in-person event if 10 to 50% of our attendee base can't attend. So that's why I think the hybrid is going to be here for a long time. I think it's going to take a while for this vaccine to get to where it needs to be in terms of coverage on people. So at least 2 years of solid virtual flip to hybrid before we probably kick into 100% live and in person. And again, like I said, I think hybrid will be here for a while. I think it's going to depend on your industry and the client and the group. But I think hybrid's going to be here for a very, very, very long time. I don't think it's gonna go anywhere at all. Yes, George, forever. I'm with you.
I thought you were also doing some interesting like outdoor events though as well. Where just people are like masked up outside and a little bit more distant. That sounds kind of cool.
Yeah, so we have a little niche division in our company where we produce horse races. So for those of you that know that or have been in Nashville for a while and you've heard of the Iroquois steeplechase, we produce that. It's about 25,000 people every year this Saturday before Mother's Day. We do one for about 60,000 people up in Jersey. It's about 30 minutes outside of the city. Beautiful horse country up there in Far Hills. And then we do one, it's about 4,000 people. It's smaller in Charleston. And that's the one we just did live and in person on November 15th. And it was fantastic. So just imagine like a track, right? And, the horses are running, and inside the track, we didn't have any like party tents. Like normally, if you've been to Iroquois, you've seen like the big, beautiful party tents and you've got hundreds of people and buffets and bars and all that stuff. None of that. But we turned the entirety of the inside the track into tailgating. And then we socially distanced the tailgating. So it's basically every other space in like a checkerboard kind of pattern. It was great. It was a beautiful day. We had 2,200 some people come, which is perfect because 4,000 is like the capacity. So it's right at 50% capacity, which is great. Everybody wore masks the whole time. My team was in masks the whole time. It was sunny. It was awesome. I got really good press down in Charleston from that. And it's actually helping that industry improve, and helping that, that sport and that race come back sooner than later, because it is, there are large numbers of people, but it was a lot of fun. And we were also excited to just be on site and be like working and be in the mud. Like I think I ran around outside for like 8 hours in the pouring down rain doing tailgating signs. So I was like, I don't even care. Like I just wasn't sitting at my computer on a Zoom. I was like, we were all outside and it was so awesome. So yeah, the outdoor, there's a lot of, drive-in movies that we've done, drive-in concerts, drive-in shows, those kind of things, which are coming back, and a lot of people are starting to do. You just have to wait till the weather gets a little bit warmer, but I think we'll have a bunch of those. I know of 3 right now that we're working on for the spring of next year. So I think those will continue as well.
That's awesome fun.
Yeah.
My final question before we open it up to the groups, if they have any questions. I know you're part of just EO and like that entrepreneurial community. How have you really leveraged them, through this pandemic and through this time? Have you like taken advantage of that community of entrepreneurs?
Oh man, I love EO. Huge fan, a huge fan of that organization. Everything, you name it. For the forum that I'm in, there's 8 of us or 7 of us. We are family. We are on constant text. We actually will get together. We kind of signed waivers, for the lack of a better explanation, on us, being careful with our own personal lives. So in case something happens and we need to get together into a face-to-face meeting for a business crisis, that we can. So I've been able to do that. I'll tell you, I went to them. I don't mind. I'm an open book. You guys will learn if we ever talk again. But when all this happened, I freaked out. How could you not? I have been in live events for 21 years. It's my second company that I ran in it. This is my baby. And all of a sudden this pandemic comes and it's like, holy shit, am I going to have to find a new career? Like I literally didn't know what I was going to do. And I was like panicking. Those 2 weeks when I was moving all of our revenue and all of our clients' events to the next year or whatever, like I literally just sat here and just like stared at the screen. Like I didn't know what to do. So I texted my forum and I said, I need help. And that's all I said. And I had 3 phone calls in 2 minutes. Like my phone just started ringing off the hook and they called, got on the phone with them. I literally turned over my screen, opened up all of my financials, sat down, looked at the calendar, and my EO team helped me realize that we were going to be okay within like a day. Like we looked at everything that I had, you know, thank God we run our company really smartly. Not everybody does. Thank God we're there. But you know, like they picked me up. They said, Falon, like you're fine. They're like, sure, you're going to lose some money, but guess what? So is everybody else. They're like, your company's is sustainable. You've got blah, 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 blah. So they literally picked me up off the ground. And it was a very, very vulnerable moment for me because I'm not the kind of person that admits that she's scared. And I was scared. So they helped and they've continued to help. So now we're kind of doing it for other people in my group too. It's like we have other industries that are hurting now more than mine is because we pivoted to virtual. We recertified a bunch. We've learned a ton. You know, we've grown in other ways. We launched a consulting division to help called Business of Events to help people get their events departments in order during COVID because why not? You know, like we've figured it out. But now I'm the one helping pick others up off the floor because they've lost X revenue or employees or somebody died near them or whatever. So I could not have made it without EO. So when I had to repay my renewal fee, no problem. I would have sold something to pay that fee if I had to. Like it was totally worth it. It's a good group of people, and they just, you know, to be a part of a group that that lives and walks in the fire with you is really cool because they get it. They know how hard it is to run a business, and then when you throw COVID in it, it's a whole other mix. That's cool.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
What questions do people from the group have? I don't know, George, I know you're in events. If you have more specific questions, Emily, if you have more questions, so I'm just going to call on folks. How did you get your first customers outside of Nashville, then outside of the country? And then, well, that's the first question. Then we'll go to the next one in that.
Yeah. So we've got, we haven't really spent a lot on marketing, to be honest. Everything is through word of mouth and through industries that we tap into. So literally, like if we would, for example, do a really successful conference for somebody in the tech industry, and you know, executives or leadership from other companies would attend, they would literally come up to us at that meeting that we were producing and be like, hey, who's producing this? And I'd be like, we are. Here's my card. Like, it sounds crazy. I don't have any more of an answer than that, but that's kind of how it happens. Like, what we found is if you can just show people what you do and how good you are, then they'll just immediately buy from you. And that just flips, like, it's like immediate return. Like, we don't have to sell it. Like, all those people, and that was probably the first 10 or 15 outside of Nashville that we got. And then once we got from there, it just started happening. Like, people would hear about us. We started marketing more. We got more on social. We spent a lot of money on marketing this past year. We started winning awards from a regional level and just started getting our name out there a lot more. So at first it was very grassrooty. You know, it's like one of the team members or me is some part of the country and we're producing this event and somebody walks up to us, literally. And then, or somebody would refer us out. But like the past couple of years, our name has been out there a lot more than it normally was. And then what event, if any, what do you mean by that, Emily?
What event? She means like virtual events that have been monetized as opposed to free.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So yeah, people have done that. You mean in terms of like charging ticket prices for attendees?
Yeah, if there's good events that you've seen done well that they actually have successfully been able to charge tickets for, and or maybe, you know, afterwards they were able to sell a product through that event or gain clients.
Yeah, so that one's hard. I wish that in the beginning of virtual events, somebody in the tech world that everybody listens to would have said, please charge for your virtual events and don't just give them away for free, because so many people started giving them away for free that I mean, we're doing it at TEDx right now. I did fight it, just so you know. I wanted at least like a $20 fee, but you know, so many people are giving it away for free that it's cheapening people's brands and the message and what they're getting out there. We have had a few clients that have been able to charge for it. Launch Tennessee is one of them. If you guys are in the startup space at all, you probably went to 3686. We produced that.
Ticket went from 200 to 25 though.
Yeah. Yep. And we produced that for 7 years. So that was one of my first clients, actually. I love them. They're great. But yeah, so they charged and had good attendance. And a couple of our other clients that do more private events have been able to charge and get good attendance. It really just depends only, I think, on who you're going after in terms of your target audience. Like, for example, for TEDx, part of our mission with TED in general is spreading ideas. You know, ideas we're spreading, but the other part is making it available to everybody. And so going through COVID, you know, and the board was split on this and we had to have a tiebreaker, but you know, some people were like, nobody has money anymore through COVID. We have to let these things go out for free, which I totally understand, but you have to decide what that means for what you're putting out there too. You know, like sometimes you may be putting content out there that you just can't give away for free. And you have to think about the repercussions of it moving forward into the future. So it's like, okay, cool. If you do one free event, what does that mean for your next event? Could you then suddenly charge? Or what happens when you get live again? What happens? Here's a bigger question. What happens when you're hybrid and you have live people paying a fee to go live? Well, let's say it's $500, right, for a ticket. I can bet you that people virtually aren't going to pay $500. You see, so for me, it's more like a business strategy or a corporate strategy decision rather than like a monetary decision. And I don't know anybody, to be honest, that has done it really well. I think that like another one of our clients, we're doing this 57,000 people. And it's a big trade show and they're charging almost next to nothing, which is 20 times less than what they would charge in person. But they're doing it just to try to cover their costs. And that's their strategy, right? They're like, if our platform costs X and our production costs Y, what is that? And let's try to cover that. You could do it that way, but I'm with you. I wish I had like a shining star example. I don't have one. I don't know one yet. We try to guide people on it from a business strategy standpoint instead of a money standpoint. But everybody's usually like, well, I just need to break even. And I'm like, oh, breaking even in good times was hard. Breaking even in COVID is like a completely different thing, you know? So I'll keep my eye out though. If something comes up, I can let you guys know because I haven't found like a really good one yet.
Thank you. That does answer. And it does sound like just helping them on the business strategy side, though, does help them think about how they can monetize after the event. So thank you.
Totally. Yeah.
George, did you want to unmute and ask your question?
Yeah, sure. It's easier. I accidentally hit the enter key, so I have broke my question up. But, hey, Falon, nice to hear your conversation this afternoon. Could you talk about some of the clients or the broader industries that they operate in that are adopting online events and those that are more hesitant? Have you seen a distinction with certain industries?
I would say the greatest example are, I can kind of bucket it, right? So imagine, like, think about the industries that rely on face-to-face and one-on-one communication, like finance, right? So they are not wanting to do anything virtual because their value comes from people connecting in person at events. So like banks and credit card companies. I'm trying to do this without telling you all these company names. So just like, you know, fintech kind of businesses, and they're just like, you know, it's important for me as, you know, our clients and then their customers to be together in person, you know, going to those dinners after the conference, having breakfast in the morning, having coffee, and like they just don't see the value in being able to connect one-on-one with a person in a greater platform or greater online community as they do if they would be together, you know, face to face. Now, of course, our tech clients are all about it. Interesting enough, a lot of our nonprofit clients are all about it. Retail clients are all about it. Some very interesting, I don't know where, because sporting goods industry and sport industry clients are all about it. But it's really like those one-on-one personal relationships that just don't want to pivot. Another group that isn't really wanting to pivot is like the logistics trucking industry. They're having a hard time pivoting because they're logistics and trucking. They don't want to get on Zoom. They don't want to get on a virtual platform. They want to, you know, get together with their friends and go to a meeting and go have beer afterwards. So it's really hard and it's been difficult, but we're actually getting traction on educating people about what virtual and online events are. We have to do a lot of screen sharing, like, okay, this is one we just produced. See how great this was. Okay, this is one we saw online. See how great this is, whatever it is, because we can, like, people's heads are not wrapping around what it is. They think it's what we're doing right now. And so, but we've been good about that. Like getting to the education part of it is the first battle. And then once you get them like hooked, like if you can just find like a little hook for them and they get attached to it, and then we can usually pivot them. Unless they're the one-on-one, we have to talk with this person in person. I can't do anything about that. I'm just like, not yet. Eventually we can hologram them into the room and we'll be fine. But like right now, unless you have $50,000 for a minute, I really don't know how to make that happen. So no, that's a good question. It's a good question.
Awesome. Any final questions before we wrap up? Cool. Well, thank you so much, Falon, for coming and like joining us to share virtually. Thank you everyone for kind of tuning in. I'm going to post kind of the recording of this on Slack, but I appreciate you all.
Yeah, same. And thank y'all. And Haley, you can give everybody my email if anybody wants to connect. Like, I always love to help people with anything. So if there's anything you guys need from me or any questions or anything you want to talk over, feel free to reach out. And I mean that. I'm actually the one person that responds to every email I get every single day. So,
I respect that so much.
Yeah, just know that I'm here to help this community that we're all in. So yeah, just seriously, Haley can send it to you, or I can put it in the chat right now so you guys got it. So if you need anything or have any questions, I'm here.
Boom. And I can send anyone, just shoot me a Slack message if you didn't grab it and I'll share.
Yep, that sounds good.
All right. Bye, everyone. Have a great day.